The alarm on the Starling beeped 3 times. Kang Do-yun looked up from his cold coffee and stared at the screen. A distress signal. Out here, in the empty space between systems, where nobody traveled, unless they had to. "You seeing this?" Park Ji-woo called from the engine room. "I see it." Do-yun zoomed in on the signal's location. His stomach turned when he recognized the ship design. Valorian, military class. The same kind of ship that had watched his squad die 10 years ago without lifting a finger to help. Ji-woo walked into the cockpit, wiping grease from her hands. She leaned over his shoulder and studied the screen. "We should check it out." "No." Do-yun. I said no. He turned back to his coffee. "It's Valorian. Not our problem." Ji-woo sat down in the co-pilot seat. She had that look on her face. The one that meant she wasn't going to let this go. Someone might be alive over there. Then someone else can save them. There is no one else. We're the only ship within 3 hours of that signal. She paused. If it was us floating out there, wouldn't you want someone to come? Do-yun gripped his cup. He thought about the border wars. He thought about calling for help while his friends bled out around him. He thought about the Valorian ships that passed by, close enough to see, far enough to ignore. "They never came for us," he said quietly. "I know." Ji-woo put her hand on his arm. "But we're not them." He sat there for a long moment. Then he put down his coffee and reached for the navigation controls. "Fine, but we look, we leave. That's it." The Valorian ship was worse than the scans had shown. It drifted slowly, pieces of its hull torn away, lights flickering and dying. Do-hyun had seen battle damage before. This wasn't just damage. This was slaughter. They docked with the wreckage and suited up. Do-hyun carried his pistol. Ji-woo brought a medical kit. "Stay behind me," he said. The airlock opened and they stepped into darkness. The smell hit him first. Burnt metal. Something else underneath it. He turned on his flashlight and immediately wished he hadn't. Bodies. Valorian soldiers scattered across the corridor, their famous bio-armor cracked open like eggshells. Do-yun had heard stories about that armor. It was supposed to be unbreakable. It was supposed to make them invincible. But here it was, shattered and useless, and the warriors inside were just as dead as anyone else. "What happened here?" Ji-woo whispered. Do-yun shook his head. He didn't know. He wasn't sure he wanted to know. They moved deeper into the ship, checking each room, finding only more death. The bridge was destroyed. The engine room was a burned ruin. Whatever hit this ship had been fast and brutal. "Do-hyun?" Ji-woo's voice was strange. "Over here." She stood at the entrance to what looked like a medical bay. Inside, among the broken equipment and fallen soldiers, something moved. Do-hyun raised his pistol and stepped forward. She lay against the far wall, half buried under debris. A Valorian female. Her armor was cracked across her chest and arms, the pieces hanging loose, exposing pale skin covered in blood. She was trying to breathe, each breath shallow and wet. Do-yun kept his weapon aimed at her head. "Don't move." Her eyes opened. They were dark and deep. And they focused on him with effort. He waited for the threat. He waited for her to reach for a weapon, to snarl something in her harsh language, to give him a reason to pull the trigger. Instead, her voice came out soft, broken, almost gentle. "Trust me, human," she said. "Please." Do-yun's fingers stayed on the trigger. His hand was steady. His heart was not. "Why should I?" She coughed. Blood came with it. "Because I have nowhere else to go." Ji-woo pushed past him and knelt beside the alien. "She's dying. We need to get her back to the ship." "She's Valorian. She's hurt. Her people—" "I don't care about her people." Ji-woo looked up at him. "I care about her. Right now. Right here. She needs help. Do-hyun stared at the wounded alien. She stared back at him. There was no pride in her eyes, no anger, just pain, and something that might have been hope. He holstered his pistol. "Fine," he said. "But if she tries anything, I'm throwing her out the airlock." He bent down and lifted her. She was lighter than he expected. Her armor, even broken, was warm against his arms, like it was alive. She made a small sound of pain when he moved her, but she didn't fight him. "What's your name?" Ji-woo asked as they carried her through the corridor. The alien took a moment to answer as if she had to think about it. "Yuna." "I'm Ji-woo. This is Do-hyun. We're going to help you." Yuna's eyes moved to Do-hyun. "Why?" He didn't answer. He didn't have an answer. They got her back to the Starling and laid her on the table in the small medical bay. Up close, in good light, the damage was even worse. The bio-armor wasn't just broken, it was dying. Pieces of it had fused with her skin, and where it had cracked, her flesh was raw and infected. "I don't know Valorian medicine," Do-hyun said. "Then learn." Ji-woo was already pulling up files on her tablet, searching for anything that might help. Do-hyun looked at Yuna. Her breathing was getting weaker. Her eyes were half closed. He had spent 10 years hating her kind. 10 years blaming them for what happened to his squad, for all the times they could have helped and didn't. And now here he was, trying to save one of them. "I need to remove the damaged armor pieces," he said. "It's going to hurt." Yuna opened her eyes. "I know. I'll be as careful as I can." "I know." He picked up a cutting tool and got to work. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just gripped the edge of the table and endured. Do-hyun had seen soldiers with less courage. 2 hours later, he had done what he could. The worst pieces were gone. The wounds were cleaned and bandaged. She was stable, but barely. Do-hyun sat down heavily, exhausted. Ji-woo brought him water. "You did good," she said. "I did what had to be done." "That's the same thing." He looked at Yuna, sleeping now, her broken armor scattered on the floor around her. She looked smaller without it, younger, almost human. "What do we do with her?" he asked. Ji-woo sat down beside him. "I don't know, but we can figure that out later. For now, she's alive. That's enough." Do-hyun wasn't sure it was enough. He wasn't sure it was even the beginning. But Ji-woo was right about one thing. They weren't like the Valorians. They had stopped. Maybe that was worth something. He finished his water and went back to the cockpit to set a course for the nearest human station. Behind him, in the medical bay, Yuna slept. And for the first time in 10 years, Do-hyun felt something other than anger when he thought about aliens. He wasn't sure what to call it yet, but it felt like the start of something. Do-hyun rushed into the medical bay, pistol drawn, heart pounding. But there was no attacker. There was only Yuna sitting up on the table, her hands pressed against her chest, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. "Hey! Hey!" He holstered his weapon and moved toward her. "You're safe! You're on my ship!" Her eyes were wild. She didn't seem to see him. She was looking at something that wasn't there. "They came," she whispered. "They came for us. Our own people. That's over now. You're here. You're alive." Slowly, her breathing calmed, her eyes focused on his face. For a long moment, she just stared at him, as if she was trying to remember who he was and why she was here. "The human," she said finally. "Do-hyun." "That's right." She looked down at herself, at the bandages covering her chest and arms, at the gaps where her armor used to be. Her hands trembled slightly. "You saved me. Ji-woo saved you. I just did what she told me." Yuna shook her head. "You could have left me. You should have left me. Why didn't you?" Do-hyun didn't have a good answer for that. He'd been asking himself the same question for the past 12 hours. "Lie back down. You need rest." She didn't argue. She was too weak to argue. She lay back and closed her eyes, and within minutes, She was asleep again. Do-yun stood there watching her for a while. Then he went to find Ji-woo. She was in the cockpit studying her tablet. "How is she?" "Awake, for now." He sat down in the pilot's seat. "She was talking about being attacked by her own people." Ji-woo nodded. "I've been researching. There are rumors about a split in Valorian society. Some of them want to expand, conquer, dominate. Others want something different. Peace, cooperation." "With who?" "With us. With humans." Do-yun laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. "The Valorians wanting peace with humans? That's funny." "I don't think it's a joke. I think that's why her ship was attacked. I think she was part of the faction that wanted alliance, and the war faction decided to get rid of them." Do-yun thought about this. He thought about the broken bodies on that ship, the shattered armor, the efficient brutality of the attack. Valorians killing Valorians. It made a sick kind of sense. "Even if that's true," he said, "it's not our problem." "Isn't it?" Ji-woo put down her tablet. "If there are Valorians who want peace, shouldn't we help them?" "We don't know what she wants. We don't know anything about her." "Then let's ask her." They waited until Yuna was stronger. It took 2 more days. During that time, Do-yun checked on her regularly, changed her bandages, gave her water and the nutrient paste that was the closest thing to Valorian food they had. She accepted his help without complaint. She watched him with those dark, thoughtful eyes, and she never asked for anything more than he offered. On the 3rd day, she could sit up on her own. On the 4th day, she could stand. Her armor was still broken, pieces of it dying and falling away, but she was healing underneath. Slowly, painfully, but healing. That evening, Do-yun and Ji-woo sat with her in the medical bay. It was time to talk. "Tell us what happened," Do-yun said. "The truth." Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she began to speak. "I was part of a group. We believed that the old ways were wrong. For generations, my people have viewed other species as lesser, unworthy of respect, unworthy of alliance. But some of us saw differently. We saw humans fighting in the border wars. We saw how you struggled, how you suffered, how you refused to give up even when you were losing. We saw something in you that our leaders refused to see." "What?" Ji-woo asked. "Strength. Not the strength of weapons or armor, the strength of spirit, the strength to keep going when there is no reason to hope." Yuna paused. "We wanted to build a bridge between our peoples. We believed it was possible." "And the High Command didn't like that," Do-hyun said. "No, they called us traitors. They sent hunters to destroy us." Her voice was steady, but her hands were clenched in her lap. "My ship was carrying intelligence, plans for an attack on human colonies. 3 worlds, millions of people. I was supposed to deliver this information to human authorities as proof that we wanted peace." Do-yun felt cold. "An attack? When?" "Soon. Weeks, maybe less. The war faction is moving quickly. They believe that if they strike hard enough, humans will break. They do not understand you." "And you do?" Yuna looked at him. "I am beginning to." Ji-woo leaned forward. "We need to tell someone. The military, the government, someone who can do something." "If we go to the authorities with this, they'll take her," Do-yun said. "They'll interrogate her, lock her up. She'll never see freedom again." "I know." Yuna's voice was calm. "But the information is more important than my freedom. It is more important than my life." Do-hyun stared at her. He had spent so long thinking of Valorians as cold, as heartless, as incapable of caring about anything beyond their own pride. And here was one willing to sacrifice herself to save millions of humans she had never met. "Why?" he asked. "Why do you care what happens to us?" Yuna considered the question carefully. "Because I believe that what we do to others, we do to ourselves. If my people destroy yours, we will not become stronger. We will become empty. We will lose something that we will never get back." She looked at her broken armor. I have already lost much. I do not want to lose the chance for a different future. The ship was quiet. Outside, stars drifted past the windows. We can't just hand her over, Jiwoo said quietly. There has to be another way. Do-yun stood up and walked to the window. He thought about the border wars. He thought about his dead friends. He thought about all the years he had spent carrying hate in his chest like a stone. And he thought about Yuna standing in front of him, willing to give up everything for a hope she might never see fulfilled. I know someone, he said finally. Captain Hanul. He runs a resistance unit off the books. They prepare for threats that the official military won't acknowledge. If anyone will listen to us, he will. Jiwoo brightened. Can you contact him? I can try, but it's risky. If the wrong people find out we're carrying a Valorian with intelligence about an attack, we'll have both sides hunting us. Then we will be hunted together, Yuna said. Do-yun turned to look at her. She met his eyes without flinching. You have already shown me who you are, she said. Whatever you decide, I will remember it. But I hope you will choose to fight. Not for me. For the people who will die if we do nothing. He held her gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded. Jiwoo, set a course for the outer rim. I'll send a message to Hanul. He looked at Yuna one more time. Get some rest. You're going to need your strength. She almost smiled. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We haven't done anything. You came back for me. You listened to me. You believed me. Her voice was soft, but there was warmth in it now. That is more than I expected from humans. That is more than I expected from anyone. Do-hyun didn't know what to say to that. So he just nodded and left the medical bay. In the cockpit, Jiwoo was already plotting their course. You think this will work? No idea. But we're doing it anyway. Yeah. He sat down and started composing a message to Hanul. I guess we are. Outside, the stars waited. Somewhere among them, a fleet was preparing to destroy human worlds. And on a small freighter called the Starling, a wounded alien and 2 humans were preparing to stop them. It was a foolish plan. It was probably hopeless. But hope, Do-yun was starting to realize, didn't need to be smart to be worth following. Station Kiora 7 was not a nice place. It floated in neutral space, a meeting point for traders, smugglers, and people who didn't want to be found. The perfect place to hide, Do-hyun thought, or the perfect place to be trapped. They needed supplies, they needed fuel, and they needed time to plan their next move. Hanul had responded to Do-hyun's message with a single set of coordinates and a time. 3 days from now. Until then, they were on their own. Yuna could barely walk. Her armor continued to fail, pieces cracking and falling away, leaving her weaker by the hour. She needed Valorian medical care, but that was impossible. Going to any Valorian station meant death. So she held on, step by painful step, and didn't complain. Stay close, Do-hyun said as they entered the station. And keep your head down. Yuna had wrapped herself in a cloak to hide her armor. She looked small inside it, fragile. Nothing like the proud warriors Do-hyun had seen in combat footage. Jiwoo walked on her other side, ready to catch her if she stumbled. We get the supplies, we get out. Simple. Nothing is simple, Do-hyun muttered. He was right. They were in the market district looking for fuel cells when Do-hyun felt it. That itch at the back of his neck, the feeling of being watched. He had learned to trust that feeling during the war. It had saved his life more than once. He glanced around casually. The market was crowded, humans, aliens of various species, robots hauling cargo, nothing obviously wrong. Then he saw them. 2 Valorians standing at a food stall, not eating. They wore civilian clothes, but they stood like soldiers, and they were looking directly at Yuna. We have a problem, Do-hyun said quietly. Yuna followed his gaze. Her face went pale. Hunters. How did they find us? The armor. Even broken, it sends signals. I should have known. Her voice was bitter. I have put you in danger. We'll worry about that later. Right now, we need to move. They walked faster, trying not to run, trying not to draw attention. Do-Yun led them through the crowd, taking turns at random, hoping to lose the hunters in the maze of corridors and shops. It didn't work. Every time he looked back, the Valorians were there, closer now. And there were more of them. 4, 6. They were herding the humans like animals, cutting off escape routes, pushing them toward the station's lower levels. They're driving us somewhere, Ji-Woo said. I know. Do-Yun pulled out his pistol. Ji-Woo, get Yuna to the ship. I'll hold them off. Alone? Against 6 Valorians? Just go! But it was too late. They turned a corner and found 2 more hunters waiting for them. The corridor was empty. This part of the station was abandoned, full of old cargo holds and broken machinery. They were surrounded. The hunters moved closer. They didn't draw weapons. They didn't need to. Valorians were stronger than humans, faster, tougher. Even without armor, they were dangerous. Yuna of House Saran, one of them said. He was tall with cold eyes and a scar across his jaw. You are charged with treason against the Valorian people. You will come with us. Yuna stepped forward. Do-Yun grabbed her arm, but she pulled free. Let them go, she said to the hunter. They are not part of this. They found me by accident. They carry a traitor. That makes them enemies. They are innocent. The hunter smiled. It wasn't a kind expression. There are no innocents in war. He raised his hand, ready to give an order. And then Yuna did something unexpected. She took off her cloak and let it fall to the ground. She stood before the hunters in her broken armor, pieces of it hanging loose, gaps showing the bandages beneath. She looked weak. She looked defeated. But her voice was steady. Look at me, she said. Look at what you are doing. I am one of you. I wore the armor with pride. I served our people with honor. And now you hunt me like an animal because I dared to believe we could be better. The hunters hesitated. Is this who we are? Yuna continued. Is this the strength of the Valorian people, killing our own, murdering unarmed humans? Where is the honor in that? Where is the pride? The scarred hunter's jaw tightened. Honor is obedience. Pride is strength. You betrayed both. No, I chose a different kind of strength. I chose hope. Yuna gestured at Do-Yun and Ji-Woo. These humans saved me. They owe me nothing. They have every reason to hate my people. And still, they came for me. Still, they helped me. Is that weakness? The hunters looked at each other. Do-Yun could see the doubt on some of their faces. He stepped forward. She's right, he said. I fought in the border wars. I watched my friends die while your ships flew past and did nothing. I have spent 10 years hating Valorians. He paused. But I don't hate her, because she showed me something different. She showed me that not all of you are the same. The scarred hunter turned his cold eyes on Do-Yun. You would speak for a traitor? I would speak for someone who was willing to die to save people she never met. I would speak for someone who has more courage than anyone I've ever known. Do-Yun held the hunter's gaze. If you kill her, you prove everything she said about your people. But if you let her live, maybe something changes. Silence. The hunters stood frozen, caught between their orders and their doubts. The scarred one looked at Yuna for a long moment. The High Command will send others, he said finally. You cannot run forever. I know, Yuna said. Then why do you continue? Because even a few more days of life is a few more days to hope, and hope is worth more than certainty. The hunter stared at her. Something shifted in his expression. Not sympathy, not exactly, but maybe understanding. He lowered his hand. We will return to report that we lost your trail, he said. "You have 1 day. After that, there will be no more mercy." He turned and walked away. One by one, the other hunters followed. Do-hyun let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Ji-woo grabbed Yuna's arm to steady her. She was shaking. "We need to go," Do-hyun said. "Now!" They ran. The Starling was still at the dock. They sealed the airlock and launched within minutes, pushing the old freighter as fast as it would go. Ji-woo sat at the controls, hands flying across the console. "We're clear of the station. No pursuit." Do-hyun nodded. He was still trying to calm his racing heart. In the co-pilot seat, Yuna sat in silence. Her face was pale, her body trembling with exhaustion. But her eyes were bright. "You spoke for me," she said to Do-hyun. "You did not have to do that. You spoke first. You bought us time." "I only told the truth." Do-hyun looked at her. "So did I." She held his gaze. And for the first time since he'd found her in that wreckage, he saw something new in her eyes. Not just pain, not just hope, trust. "Thank you," she said softly. He nodded. "Get some rest. We have a long way to go." She closed her eyes and leaned back in her seat. Within moments, she was asleep. Ji-woo glanced at Do-hyun. "That was close." "Yeah." "What you said back there, did you mean it?" He thought about it. 10 years of anger. 10 years of blaming every Valorian for what a few of them had done. And now this, risking his life for one of them, speaking on her behalf. "Yeah," he said. "I meant it." Ji-woo smiled. "Good." They flew on through the darkness, toward the coordinates Hanul had sent. Behind them, the hunters were regrouping. Ahead of them, uncertain allies waited. But in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was that they were alive, and they were together, and they had made a choice. It was enough. For now, it was enough. The horizon's edge was hidden deep inside an asteroid belt, surrounded by rocks the size of cities. It was a carrier ship, old but strong, designed to disappear and survive. Captain Hanul had made it the home of his resistance unit, soldiers and engineers and pilots who prepared for threats that the official human military refused to believe in. Do-hyun had served under Hanul during the border wars. He trusted the captain more than anyone else alive, but as the Starling approached the hidden carrier, he felt a knot of worry in his chest. He was bringing a Valorian onto a ship full of people who had every reason to hate Valorians. This could go very wrong. Hanul met them at the docking bay. He was a tall man in his mid-40s with gray hair and steady eyes that had seen too much. He looked at Do-hyun first, then at Ji-woo, then at Yuna. His expression didn't change. "So," he said, "this is the Valorian." Yuna stood as straight as she could in her broken armor. She met the captain's eyes. "I am Yuna. I bring intelligence about an attack on human colonies. I offer it freely. Intelligence from a Valorian, that's a first." Hanul studied her for a long moment. "Come with me. We'll talk." The interrogation room was small and bare. Yuna sat at the table. Hanul sat across from her. Do-hyun and Ji-woo waited outside, watching through a window. "Why should I trust you?" Hanul asked. "You should not," Yuna said. "Trust must be earned. I ask only for the chance to earn it. Tell me about the attack." Yuna told him everything. The 3 colony worlds that were targeted, the size of the fleet, the timing, the strategy. She held nothing back. Hanul listened without interrupting. When she finished, he sat back and looked at her. This information, if it's real, could save millions of lives. It is real. How do I know this isn't a trap? How do I know you're not leading us into an ambush? Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You do not know. I cannot prove my intentions. I can only tell you what I believe and hope that you see truth in my words." She paused. "My people attacked my ship. They killed my comrades. They tried to kill me. I have nothing left but the hope that their actions were not the end of my people's story. I have nothing left but the hope that we can still become something better." Hanul held her gaze. Then he stood up. "Wait here." He came out and closed the door. Do-hyun stepped forward. "Well?" "Her information checks out. Our scouts have detected fleet movements in the sectors she mentioned. The timing matches." Hanul rubbed his jaw. "Either she's telling the truth or she's part of the most elaborate trap I've ever seen." "It's not a trap," Do-hyun said. "I've been with her for days. She's genuine." "You've known her for days. I've spent decades fighting her kind." "I know. But what?" Do-hyun struggled for words. "She's different. I don't know how to explain it, but she's different." Hanul looked at him for a long moment. Then he sighed. "All right. We act on the intelligence. We warn the colonies, we prepare defenses, we do everything we can." He glanced at the interrogation room. "But she stays under guard. And if this goes wrong, it's on you." "Understood." Hanul walked away. Ji-woo touched Do-hyun's arm. "That went better than I expected. The hard part comes next." News spread quickly on the horizon's edge. By evening, everyone knew there was a Valorian on board, and not everyone was happy about it. Do-hyun felt the tension as he walked through the ship. Looks that were too long, conversations that stopped when he passed. He had expected this. It didn't make it easier. That night, a group gathered outside the room where Yuna was being held. They weren't violent, not yet, but their anger was clear. They shouted about traitors. They shouted about the friends they had lost to Valorian weapons. Do-hyun pushed through the crowd. "Break it up! Go back to your quarters!" "Why are you protecting her?" someone yelled. "After everything they did to us?" "Because she's trying to help us. Because she risked her life to bring us information that could save millions of people." "She's a Valorian. They don't help anyone but themselves." "Maybe she's different." "They're not different. They're all the same." The crowd pressed closer. This was getting dangerous. Do-hyun's hand moved toward his pistol. Then the door opened, and Yuna stepped out. She was weak. She could barely stand. But she stood there anyway, facing the crowd of angry humans, and she didn't back away. "You hate me," she said. Her voice was calm. "I understand. I am the face of your enemy. I am the symbol of your pain. If it would bring you peace, I would let you take your anger out on me." The crowd went quiet. "But it would not bring you peace. It would only make you more like the ones who hurt you. And you deserve better than that." She paused. "I did not come here to ask for forgiveness. I came here because I believe your people deserve to live. I came here because I believe my people are wrong. I came here because I hope, maybe foolishly, that we can build something better together." Nobody moved. "I will not ask you to trust me. Trust takes time. But I ask you to give me the chance to prove myself. Judge me by what I do, not by what I am. That is all I ask." She stood there, broken and bleeding, offering nothing but her words. A young woman pushed through the crowd. Her name was Sumin, and Do-hyun knew her story. Her brother had died in a Valorian attack 3 years ago. She had more reason than anyone to hate. She stopped in front of Yuna. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. Then Sumin spoke. "My brother was named Jiho. He was 22 years old. He wanted to be a teacher." Yuna nodded slowly. "I am sorry for your loss. Sorry doesn't bring him back." "No, it does not." Sumin's jaw tightened. "If you're lying to us, if this is a trick, I will kill you myself." "If I am lying," Yuna said quietly, "I will let you." They stared at each other. Then Sumin turned and walked away. One by one, the crowd dispersed. Do-hyun let out a breath. Ji-woo appeared beside him. "That was intense. she said. Yeah, she handled it well. He looked at Yuna. She was leaning against the doorframe, exhausted, barely staying on her feet. But there was something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. She had faced them. She had spoken her truth. She hadn't promised them anything she couldn't deliver. And maybe, just maybe, she had planted a seed. Do-Yun walked over to her. Come on, let's get you back inside. Did I make things worse? She asked as he helped her walk. No, you made them think. That's a start. She looked at him. You really believe change is possible? I'm starting to. She almost smiled. Then maybe there is hope for both our peoples. He helped her to her bed and made sure she was comfortable. Then he went to the door. Do-Yun. He turned. Thank you, she said, for giving me the chance. He nodded. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start planning. He closed the door and stood in the corridor for a moment. He thought about Suman and her dead brother. He thought about his own dead friends. He thought about all the pain that the Valorians had caused, and all the pain that humans had caused in return. And he thought about Yuna, standing in front of that angry crowd, offering nothing but her truth. Maybe it wasn't enough. But maybe, if they were lucky, it was a beginning. She tried to hide it, but Do-Yun could see the signs. The way she moved more slowly each day, the way her breathing became harder, the way the color drained from her face. Her bio-armor was failing, and without it, her body couldn't survive. There must be something we can do, Jiwoo said. They were in the medical bay, looking at scan results that none of them fully understood. The ship's doctor shook his head. Her armor is integrated with her nervous system. It's not just protection, it's life support. Without it, her organs are shutting down. How long? Do-Hyun asked. Days, maybe a week. Jiwoo slammed her hand on the table. That's not good enough. There has to be something. She needs Valorian medical care. We don't have that. Then we make it. We adapt. We figure it out. Jiwoo grabbed her tablet. I'm an engineer. Tell me how the armor works, and I'll find a way. The doctor looked doubtful. But Do-Hyun knew Jiwoo. When she decided to do something, she did it. Help her, he said to the doctor. Give her whatever she needs. They worked for 3 days. Jiwoo barely slept. She studied everything they had on Valorian biology. She talked to Yuna for hours, learning how the armor functioned, what it needed, how it connected to her body. She took apart the broken pieces and examined them under magnification, and slowly she began to understand. It's not just technology, she told Do-Yun on the second night. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. It's more like a living thing. It grows with them. It becomes part of them. Can you fix it? Not the way it was. The damage is too severe. She paused. But maybe I can replace it. Not with Valorian parts. We don't have those. With human parts. Adapted to work with her system. Is that possible? I don't know. But I'm going to try. She built something new. She took pieces from their ship, from the carrier's medical supplies, from anywhere she could find materials. She created circuits and connectors and support structures, all designed to work with what remained of Yuna's armor. It was crude. It was ugly. But it was the best she could do. On the third day, they were ready. Yuna lay on the medical table, barely conscious. Her breathing was shallow. Her skin was gray. They were running out of time. This will hurt, Jiwoo warned her. The connections have to bond with your nervous system. I don't know how your body will react. Yuna looked at her. I am not afraid of pain. I know, but I wanted you to be ready. Yuna nodded. Then she looked at Do-Yun. Will you stay? She asked. He took her hand. I'm not going anywhere. Jiwoo began the procedure. It was bad, worse than Do-Yun had expected. Yuna's body convulsed as the new components connected to her system. She cried out. Not screaming, but sounds of deep, terrible pain. Her hand gripped his so hard he thought his bones would break. "Talk to her," Jiwoo said without looking up. "Keep her focused." Do-hyun leaned close to Yuna's face. "Hey, listen to my voice. Stay with me." Her eyes were squeezed shut. Sweat poured down her face. "I know it hurts. I know, but you have to hold on. You hear me? You have to hold on." She made a sound that might have been agreement. "Tell me about your home," he said. "What was it like?" It took her a moment to answer. Her voice was strained, broken by gasps of pain. "Mountains. Blue mountains. So high you could touch the clouds." "That sounds beautiful." "It was. I used to climb them when I was young, before the training, before the armor." "What else?" "Rivers. Clear water. Cold." She cried out again as Jiwoo connected another piece. "My mother took me swimming. She said the water would make me strong." "Did it?" "I don't know. I hope so." He kept her talking. He asked about her family, her training, her favorite foods, anything he could think of, and she answered, word by painful word, holding on to his voice like a lifeline. An hour passed, then 2. Finally, Jiwoo sat back. "It's done." Do-hyun looked at Yuna. She was unconscious now, her face pale and wet with sweat, but she was breathing. And on her chest and arms, where the old armor had been broken and dying, new pieces gleamed. They weren't Valorian, they weren't human. They were something else, something new. "Will it work?" he asked. "I don't know," Jiwoo admitted. "We'll have to wait and see." They waited. For 2 days, Yuna didn't wake. The doctor monitored her constantly, checking her vitals, adjusting the connections, watching for signs of rejection. Do-hyun stayed in the medical bay as much as he could. He told himself it was just concern for an asset, for the intelligence she carried, but he knew that wasn't true. On the 3rd day, her eyes opened. Do-hyun was sitting beside her bed. He looked up and found her watching him. "Hey," he said. "Welcome back." She looked down at herself, at the new armor covering her body. She moved her hand slowly, testing it, then made a fist. "It feels different," she said. "Jiwoo built it from human technology, adapted to work with your system." Yuna studied the new armor. It was darker than her original, with visible seams and joints. It looked rough compared to the smooth elegance of Valorian design, but it was alive. She could feel it bonding with her, supporting her, giving her strength. "It's not what I was," she said quietly. "But perhaps it is what I am becoming." "How do you feel?" She considered the question carefully. "Strong, different, like something has changed inside me." "Is that bad?" She looked at him. "No, I think it is good." She paused. "Thank you. You and Jiwoo. You did not have to do this." "Yes, we did." "Why?" He thought about it. "Because you're worth saving. Because you proved that when you were willing to give everything for people you never met." He shrugged. "Because that's what humans do. We help each other, even when it's hard." Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Perhaps I am becoming a little human." Do-hyun smiled. "There are worse things to be." She sat up slowly, testing her new strength. The armor responded smoothly, supporting her movements. She stood, shaky at first, then steadier. "I want to help," she said. "The attack on the colonies. I want to fight." "You're still recovering." "I have been recovering for too long. People will die if we do not act." She looked at him with those dark, deep eyes. "Let me prove what I am. Let me show your people that a Valorian can stand beside them." Do-hyun knew he should argue. She was weak. She needed rest. But he also knew that look on her face. It was the same look he'd seen on soldiers who were ready to give everything. "I'll talk to Hanoul," he said, "but the decision is his." I understand. He went to the door, then stopped and looked back at her. Yuna. Yes? Whatever happens, you've already proven yourself to me. She held his gaze, and for the first time since he'd met her, she smiled. It transformed her face, made her look young, made her look hopeful. Made her look like the future she was fighting for. Then let us prove ourselves to everyone else, she said. He nodded and went to find Hanul. In the medical bay, Yuna stood alone, looking at her new armor. Human technology, human engineering, human hope, built into her body. She was still Valorian. She would always be Valorian. But now, she was something more. And that, she thought, was worth fighting for. The colony world was called Haywan 3. It was one of the oldest human settlements outside Earth, home to 3 million people who had built their lives among alien stars. Farmers, teachers, doctors, families. They had no idea death was coming. The human fleet arrived 2 days before the Valorians were expected. It wasn't much of a fleet. The Horizon's Edge and a dozen smaller ships, carrying every soldier Hanul could gather. They were outnumbered, they were outgunned, but they were there. Evacuation is underway, Hanul reported as they approached the planet. We're getting as many people off as we can, but there's no way to move everyone in time. Doyun stood at the tactical display, studying the defense plans. Yuna was beside him, her new armor gleaming under the lights. She had spent the past day teaching the human commanders everything she knew about Valorian tactics, their formations, their weaknesses, their patterns of attack. They will expect a quick victory, she said now. They believe humans will break under pressure. They do not understand your people. Let's hope they keep not understanding, Jiwoo said. The waiting was the worst part. They took their positions among the asteroids and debris that orbited Haywan 3, hiding, watching. Ground troops deployed to key locations on the planet. Evacuation ships continued to leave, carrying thousands of people to safety. But thousands more remained. Then the Valorian fleet arrived. Doyun had never seen so many ships. They came out of faster-than-light travel like a wave of metal and fire, dozens of warships, hundreds of fighters. They moved with perfect coordination, spreading out to surround the planet. Here we go, Hanul said quietly. All ships, hold position. Don't fire until I give the word. The Valorian commander broadcast a message. Human forces, you are outnumbered. Surrender, and you will be treated fairly. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Hanul didn't respond. The Valorians began their attack. Fighters swept in first, fast and deadly. The human ships broke from cover and engaged. Space lit up with weapons fire, beams of energy, missiles, explosions that bloomed and died in silence. Doyun was in a gunship with Jiwoo and a squad of soldiers heading for the surface. Their mission was to defend a civilian shelter where thousands of people were waiting for evacuation transport. Landing in 2 minutes, the pilot called out. Do-hyun checked his weapon. Around him, soldiers did the same. Their faces were tense but determined. Yuna sat across from him. Her eyes were closed. She might have been meditating or praying. He didn't know if Valorians prayed. You ready for this? He asked. She opened her eyes. I have been ready my entire life. I just did not know what I was ready for. They hit the ground hard. The shelter was a massive building on the edge of a city, designed to hold civilians during emergencies. Today, it held 6,000 people, men, women, children, waiting for rescue that might not come in time. Valorian ground troops were already approaching. Their armor was intact, their weapons fully powered. They moved with the cold efficiency of soldiers who had never learned to doubt their own superiority. Do-hyun's squad took position at the shelter's main entrance. They had barricades and turrets and grenades. It wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. But they stood anyway. Here they come, someone said. The first wave hit them like a hammer. Valorian soldiers charged the barricade, firing as they came. Do-Yun shot back, his rifle kicking against his shoulder, aiming for the gaps in their armor. Soldiers fell around him. The barricade started to crumble. "Fall back to the second line," he shouted. They retreated into the building, fighting for every meter. The Valorians pressed forward, relentless, unstoppable. Then Yuna arrived. She came from behind the human lines, moving fast, her hybrid armor shining. She hit the Valorian advance like a thunderbolt, fighting with skill and speed that no human could match. She was one of them, trained in the same techniques, and she used that knowledge against them. But more than that, she fought with something the other Valorians didn't have. She fought with belief. A Valorian commander stepped forward to face her. His armor was decorated with symbols of rank. He looked at Yuna with disgust. "Traitor!" he spat. "Abomination! You wear human scraps and call yourself Valorian?" Yuna raised her weapon. "I am what our people could become, if we had the courage." They fought. The commander was strong and well-trained, but Yuna had something he lacked. She had faced her own death. She had been broken and rebuilt. She had nothing left to fear. She won. The commander fell, and Yuna stood over him, breathing hard. Around her, the Valorian advance had stalled. Soldiers looked at her with shock, with confusion. "Listen to me," she said. Her voice carried across the battlefield. "This is wrong. Killing innocents is wrong. We are better than this." "We have our orders," one of them said. "Orders from leaders who have lost their way. Orders that will destroy everything we could be." She gestured at the humans behind her. "Look at them. They are not cowards. They are not weak. They are standing against a force that should crush them, and they will not give up. Is that not the kind of strength we respect?" The Valorians hesitated. "We can be enemies forever," Yuna said. "We can keep killing and dying until there is nothing left. Or we can choose something different, right here, right now." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then, one by one, the Valorian soldiers lowered their weapons. Not all of them, but enough. Do-Yun stepped forward. "Fall back," he told the standing-down Valorians. "Return to your ships. Tell your commanders that we don't want war. We want to talk." The soldiers looked at each other. Then they began to withdraw. Above them, in space, something was changing too. The Valorian fleet was taking heavy losses, not because the humans were winning, but because they refused to lose. Every time the Valorians pushed forward, the humans pushed back. Every ship they destroyed was replaced by another and another and another. They were not stronger, but they were stubborn. They would not break. The Valorian fleet commander made a calculation. This was supposed to be a quick victory. It was becoming something else, something costly, something dangerous. He ordered the retreat. On the ground, Do-Yun watched the Valorian transports lift off and fly toward orbit. Around him, humans and Valorians alike stood in silence, watching them go. They had won. He looked at Yuna. She was still standing, but barely. Her armor was damaged, her body exhausted, but she was smiling. "It worked," she said. They listened. "Some of them," Do-Hyun said. "It's a start." "A start is all we need." Jiwoo ran up to them, her face bright with relief. "The evacuation ships are landing. We're getting everyone out." Do-Yun nodded. He looked around at the battlefield, at the bodies of fallen soldiers, human and Valorian, at the shelter behind them full of people who had survived because they had held the line. It wasn't victory. Not really. The Valorian fleet was still out there. The war wasn't over. But today, 6,000 people would live who might have died. Today, Valorian soldiers had put down their weapons and walked away. Today, something had changed. He put his hand on Yuna's shoulder. "Come on, let's get you back to the ship." She nodded. But before they left, she looked back at the battlefield one more time. "This is what I hoped for," she said quietly. "This is what I believed was possible." "And now?" Do-hyun asked. She turned to him. Her eyes were bright with exhaustion and hope. "Now I believe even more." They walked away together, leaving the battlefield behind. Above them, the stars were quiet. For now, that was enough. The defense of Haewon 3 changed things. The story spread, how humans had stood against a superior force and refused to break, how Valorian soldiers had lowered their weapons, how a Valorian traitor in human-built armor had fought for the people she was supposed to destroy. Inside Valorian society, the story caused chaos. The war faction tried to suppress it, but information traveled faster than they could control. Reform groups grew stronger. Voices that had been silenced began to speak again. Finally, under pressure from all sides, the Valorian High Command agreed to talks. The summit was held on neutral ground, a station in unclaimed space, far from both human and Valorian territory. Delegates came from both sides: politicians, military commanders, scientists, historians, and Yuna. She had been chosen to represent the possibility of cooperation. Both humans and reform-minded Valorians wanted her there. Her hybrid armor had become a symbol, proof that the two species could create something together. Do-hyun and Ji-woo came with her. After everything they had been through, it felt wrong to let her face this alone. The summit hall was large and cold, filled with rows of seats facing a central platform. On one side sat the human delegation, on the other, the Valorians. In between, the air was thick with tension. Hardliners on both sides pushed for confrontation. Human delegates who had lost family demanded punishment. Valorian traditionalists called any concession a sign of weakness. Arguments broke out. Accusations flew. It was going nowhere. Then Yuna stepped forward to speak. The hall went quiet. Everyone looked at her, at the strange armor she wore, at the scars on her face, at the calm determination in her eyes. "I am not a politician," she began. "I am not a diplomat. I do not know the right words to say to make old enemies become friends. But I know what happened to me. I know what I learned. And I would like to share it with you." She paused, gathering her thoughts. 3 months ago, I was dying. My armor was shattered. My people had abandoned me. I had no reason to hope for anything but death. She looked at Do-hyun. Then a human found me. A human who had every reason to hate me. He had fought against my kind. He had lost friends to our weapons. He owed me nothing. She turned back to the assembly. But he saved me anyway. He carried me onto his ship. He treated my wounds. He kept me alive when I had given up on living. Her voice was steady but soft. I asked him why. He did not have an answer. He just did it, because that is what humans do. She gestured at her armor. This was built by a human engineer, not to make me human, not to change what I am, just to keep me alive. She took human technology and made it work with Valorian biology, something that should have been impossible, but she did not let that stop her. Yuna stepped forward, closer to the assembled delegates. I am not asking you to forget the past. The past is real. The pain is real. The lives lost cannot be returned. She paused. But the future is not written yet. We can choose what it becomes. She let the words settle before continuing. I propose a joint task force. Humans and Valorians working together. We start small. Humanitarian missions, scientific exchange, cultural communication. We build trust slowly, one step at a time. No one is asked to forgive. No one is asked to forget. Only to consider that a different future is possible. The hall was silent. Then the arguments began again. Some voices supported her. Others attacked. The noise rose, filling the hall, overwhelming everything. Yuna stood there through all of it, waiting. Finally, the senior Valorian delegate raised his hand for quiet. He was old, with scars that told of battles fought long before most people in the room were born. "You speak of hope," he said to Yuna. "But hope is not a strategy. What evidence do we have that cooperation is possible?" Yuna met his eyes. "I am the evidence. I am here. I am speaking to you. I survived because humans helped me, and I stand before you because I chose to believe we could be better." She paused. "If that is not evidence, then I do not know what is." The old Valorian studied her for a long moment. "The proposal will be considered," he said finally. "That is all I can promise." It wasn't acceptance, but it wasn't rejection either. It was a beginning. After the summit, Do-hyun found Yuna on an observation deck, looking out at the stars. She stood alone, her reflection ghostly in the glass. He walked up beside her. "How do you feel?" "Tired." She almost smiled. "Hopeful. Afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Of hoping too much. Of believing that this will work and then watching it fail." She shook her head. "My people are stubborn. They do not change easily. This could take years, decades." "Maybe, but it started." "That's what matters." She looked at him. "Do you really believe that?" Do-hyun thought about it. He thought about the past 10 years, all the anger, all the hate. He thought about finding Yuna in that wreckage, about carrying her to his ship, about watching Ji-woo rebuild her armor piece by piece. "Yeah," he said. "I believe it." "Why?" "Because I've seen it happen. In you. In me. In the people on Hanul's ship who hated you at first and ended up fighting beside you." He shrugged. "If we can change, anyone can change." Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Hope is irrational. It does not make sense." "No, it doesn't." "But you do it anyway." "That's kind of our thing. Humans. We keep hoping even when it's stupid." He smiled slightly. "Maybe that's our greatest strength." Yuna looked back at the stars. "Then perhaps I am becoming a little human. You said that before. It is becoming more true." She turned to face him fully. "What will you do now? Go back to flying cargo?" Do-hyun hadn't thought about it. The past 3 months had been so focused on the summit, on helping Yuna, that he hadn't considered what came next. "I don't know," he admitted. "The Starling needs repairs. Ji-woo wants to upgrade the engines." "After that?" He trailed off. "After that?" He looked at her. "I was thinking maybe we could stick around. See how this cooperation thing works out. Someone needs to make sure you don't get into trouble." Yuna's eyes widened slightly. Then, slowly, she smiled. It was the same smile she had given him after Ji-woo rebuilt her armor, warm and full and real. "I would like that," she said. "Yeah?" "Yes." They stood there together, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Valorian fleet was regrouping. Somewhere, hardliners were plotting to destroy everything the summit had started. There would be more battles, more pain, more loss. But there would also be more hope. More moments like this one, where former enemies stood side by side and looked toward the future. Ji-woo's voice came over the intercom. "Do-hyun, Yuna, the shuttle's ready whenever you are." Do-hyun turned away from the window. "Come on, let's go home." "Home," Yuna repeated. She tasted the word like she was learning it for the first time. "The Starling. It's not much, but it's ours." She nodded. "Then let us go." They walked to the shuttle together. Ji-woo was waiting inside, already running through pre-flight checks. "So," she said as they sat down, "what's next?" Do-hyun looked at Yuna. She looked back at him. "Whatever comes," he said, "we'll figure it out." "Together," Yuna added. Ji-woo grinned. "I like the sound of that." The shuttle lifted off and carried them away from the station, toward the Starling, toward the future. Behind them, the summit continued. Delegates argued, proposals were debated, progress was slow and painful and full of setbacks. But it was happening. Because one human had stopped for a distress signal. Because one Valorian had asked for trust. Because two people from opposite sides of a conflict had chosen to believe in something better. It wasn't much. It was everything. And somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, a small freighter called the Starling flew on, carrying three people who had changed the universe. Not by conquering, not by destroying, by hoping, by trusting, by refusing to give up. That was the human way. And now perhaps it was becoming the Valorian way too. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. But beginnings, Una was learning, were the most important part. They were where everything became possible.